everyone! Here I am with a brand new countdown. 2 years ago my winter countdown was top 15 winter things. Last year my countdown was top 20 Mario winter things. This year's countdown is going to be on my list of top 15 favorite ice levels in gaming. Many people hate ice levels because of the physics, but not all of them are that bad. Let's get on with the list. Sector 5 is quite a cool sector, no pun intended. One thing is how because Samus had to be injected with the Metroid vaccine to save her from the X-parasites earlier, she is now more sensitive to cold temperatures, so she can't get in this area until she gets the Varia suit. This is where both the ice missiles and the power bombs are acquired. Unlike the other sectors, you visit this place 3 times instead of 2. In all 3 of those, you'll notice a mysterious shadow in the background sometimes. In the first mission, you open the level 3 hatchets and obtain the ice missiles. In the second mission, which is admittedly a short mission, you get the power bombs and hide from the SAX a second time. In the third mission, you'll finally face the mysterious shadow figure, known as the Nightmare. This boss, in addition to being referred to as the creepiest boss in the game, is also a rather interesting boss. You must hit the gravity manipulator underneath it between its arms. After damaging it enough times, it'll alter the gravity, making missiles almost useless. After that, you must space jump and chase it around so you'll be able to damage its face, and then destroy its core X for the gravity suit. Like I said 3 months ago, the gravity suit makes the second visit to Sector 4, which you visit right after Sector 5 by the way, not nearly as frustrating as it could have been. The Mountains of Mira Mira. Similar to some other ice levels in certain games, you ride on a snowboard instead of just a side-scrolling platform section. You go through some turns, pass some enemies, and you bounce up onto a much higher ledge and cross some platforms. Then you go down a slide and into a cannon that shoots you into the mouth of a giant crocodile ice sculpture, and inside it, it's all tube-like and you sled on the walls like in games like F-Zero X or Super Mario Galaxy. You go to another sled part, sledding around parts, and you bounce up again a couple times until you come up to a big hill. You must dodge giant snowmen and gaps, and after a while, a night portion will come up. You blast off the cannon, and the scenery will be all Christmas-like. You'll even go around a giant Christmas tree. This level is in 3D again. You strafe around some snowmen, then you go back to the daytime portion. You bounce off some trampolines and go past some more snowmen, and then get past the final stretch of the level. And it's so satisfying. The music is very catchy. It's very upbeat, and admittedly doesn't fit this game's dark atmosphere all that much. Well, at least it fits the level. The main plot of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is that DK Island has been frozen over, and now your goal is to return to DK Island and save it. Once you enter this area, the levels are reminiscent to the levels in Donkey Kong Country Returns. Homecoming Hijinks is based off the jungle world, and involves stuff like clinging onto vines that break off, so you need good timing. The second level is called Seashore War, which is based off the beach world. You'll use DK's incredible strength to pull ships out of the water! The third level is called Aqueduct Assault, which is based off the Ruins world. You have to cross sinking platforms. Some will slant, which can cause some blocks on them to slide down them. Blurry Flurry is based off the Mines world, and it's a rocket barrel section, except the ones in Tropical Freeze control more smoothly than they do in Returns. The ceiling will break off at times, which somewhat makes sense considering what's going on in this world when combined with the fact that you're in mines. The fifth level is Forest Folly, based off the Forest world. There are even some giant snowflakes that will float by, and you'll hit certain platforms to knock you into the air, which is especially fun when you're trying to use them to get across grass-covered areas. The sixth level is the Cliffside Slide, which is reminiscent to the Mountain world, where, believe it or not, you climb a giant avalanche. That is epic! Then, Frozen Frenzy. The factory world was already the most annoying world in Returns, and here I'll admit this is probably the most annoying level in the game, especially finding the secret exit, but still has some great detail. Some electric sparks will move back and forth and electrify some platforms and vines. Then we have Meltdown Mayhem. It's ironic that it's both an ice level and a lava level. This place has melting platforms and a giant lava wave part. Then we have the final boss, Lord Frederick. He's not that good of a boss fight, but he's an improvement over the majority of other final bosses in the Country series, because he can launch your platforms into the air, which is an improvement. Then we have the level Dynamite Dash. You will jump across platforms made out of dynamite, and you use some dynamite to blast open areas. The level Icicle Arsenal has a lot of stuff that are falling. The final temple, Slippy Spikes, I haven't unlocked yet, but at the same time, I've seen that you cross a giant platform that is rising and lowering. Overall, this is a complete world, though it does tend to go overboard on difficulty and sometimes. The Subspace Emissary has got to be the most underrated thing in Smash history. I personally enjoyed it. The Glacial Peak is a great example of a fun level. As the Great Fox is battling the stolen halberd, Meta Knight sees the halberd and uses this opportunity to take back the halberd. The Ice Climbers see him and think that Meta Knight is challenging them to a climbing race. As such, this is the first time you have the option to play as the Ice Climbers of the Subspace Emissary. You mostly play in a large shaft climbing up platforms, dodging spikes and enemies, and blasting through barrel cannons. As you progress up the mountain, there is more and more snow. In the next room, the song changes to Frozen Hillside, one of the best Kirby songs ever. You ride a platform past some ice crystals here, and there are some ice blocks that slide in and out. There are also a lot more ladders in one part of the area, and a room where you return metal to dive underneath a giant icicle to find a secret area. Once you get to the summit, a battle between Meta Knight and Lucario begins. You can choose which one you want to play as. After you win, the halberd will crash into the summit, allowing you to get up to it. The Abandoned Factory from Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is probably the first ice dungeon in the entire franchise, and a very great one at that. An ice level isn't really something you'd expect in a game where the main character comes from an Egyptian area. The Abandoned Factory has a few instances of jumping across moving platforms, climbing up and down a moving chain to avoid spikes, running on conveyor belts to charge up the dash ability, and using ice blocks with conveyor belts. This dungeon's weapon is the cannon, and that item alone makes this dungeon awesome. It can not only let you shoot enemies on the ground from midair, but it will also grant you 3 additional jumps. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about! Those enemies that troubled you earlier, no longer a problem! This lets you bounce over them, and combined with Risky's hat and boots, it lets you get across very long gaps. What about the dungeon's boss? This boss is probably the best boss fight in the game. Bounce over him using the cannon to hit his weak spots in the correct order to expose his weak spot. That's a fun way to use the cannon, which was already my favorite item in the game. The only downside to the boss is that it's somewhat luck-based, but that doesn't ruin the boss fight. And the boss is still mostly a test of skill, which is how luck-based events should be. You guys are getting sick of me talking about this game, are you? I'm planning on getting more Crash Bandicoot games in the future. Anyways, Eskimo Roll. One thing is how Eskimo Roll is played in the Sphere, which has admittedly not very good controls, but the level layout keeps this from being as annoying as it could have been. Well, except for the portions with the holes in them, but it's easier to avoid them than it looks, if you take your time. It is out of place considering it's in the lava world, but the level's design makes up for that. You start by rolling down a hill, going past a few holes and across a bridge. Then around some more holes. Want to know something cool? In most levels in the game, random enemies appear. In this level, Cortex actually sends some of his minions out to hinder your progress. Tiny Tiger will try to block your way, but you should move around him if you react fast. After going past some more holes, you will roll down a big hill and through a small pathway, then down another mountain. You will eventually see Dingodile, who is trying to spray you with fire. Then you go across a few platforms, which shouldn't be too bad if you take your time. Pass by Dingodile and Tiny Tiger again, and past some fire pits. There will be a section with moving platforms, which, again, aren't as annoying as they look. Then the most fun part of the level is where you see there are frozen lakes, and you use boost pads to shoot yourself out of pipes. That's epic. You also see Entropy. After that, you'll go past some more fire pits down the hill until you reach the end of the level. Though Eskimo Roll looks annoying, it's not as bad as it looks. crazy, but my favorite ice level in the Zelda franchise would have to be the Snow Peak Ruins from Twilight Princess. Yeah, crazy, I know, my favorite Zelda ice levels is in the house. Well, I think that's part of what I like about this. They managed to make a house into a very good dungeon. This is the home of Yeto and Yetta, and they have a piece of mirror in their bedroom. They want you to have it, but because the Snow Peak Ruins play out like a real dungeon, you have to find it. Yetta will try to show you the way, but she will forget where it is twice. Kind of annoying, but at least she'll find a soup ingredient, which can be used to replenish your health. Sometimes you'll be required to use cannons to break through some ice, and transport some cannonballs into other rooms. The mini-boss of the Snow Peak Ruins is the Ball and Chain Trooper. Dodge his spike ball when he flings it at you. Sometimes you'll need to grapple on the ceiling to avoid him. You'll get the Ball and Chain, which you can use to wreck your foes on the battlefield and shatter ice. Then there's the matter of the boss fight. When Yetta leads you to the top of the mansion to give you the mirror shard, does she get attacked by a boss? No. Yetta is the boss of the level. Once she stares into the mirror of Twilight, it corrupts her mind and the boss begins. Use the Ball and Chain to smash your way through all the ice to reach her, and in the second phase you use it to shatter a bunch of icicles that will try to crush you as you smash your way through them. It's an incredibly fun boss, and after you win, Yetta will return to normal. This dungeon overall is very fun. Chili Castle from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed originates from the game Billy Hatcher, which I'm thinking about getting someday. It begins in the Christmas Village area, and you go some split paths down the castle area for a while, so you drop down into a cave and surf down the river, until you come to the snowy forest and drive through the final stretch of the level to the goal. I can't really explain the Chili Castle, play it for yourself. It proves how Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed level design has drastically improved over Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Ice Cap is a great example of a fun ice level. It is downright complete, at least in Sonic's version of it. You go into a tunnel across some boost pads, then you climb up a hill and bounce off a spring and you go into another tunnel. Then you go down to another area and climb up, using icicles as ropes, using a switch to activate a bridge, and jumping across number pads. Eventually, a giant icicle will fall down and be used as a platform into another tunnel, leading you to the final stretch with that famous segment. You ride a snowboard down the mountain as you escape the avalanche. Easily one of the most fun parts of the game, and very well deserving of all its recognition. If you think about it, every main series Pokemon game has an ice level in it. Think about it. Seafoam Islands, the Ice Path, Shoal Cave, Mount Coronet, Cold Storage, and the Frost Cavern. Out of all 6 of them, I'd say that Mount Coronet is my favorite of the 6. First thing I should mention, Mount Coronet is probably the largest area in any Pokemon game. It's bigger than Castelia City and Lumio City combined. These mountains are so wide that they pretty much divide the Sinnoh region in half. You've passed through Mount Coronet a few times in this game before, but now you're at the real deal. The mountains are covered in snow, and the music is quite fitting. It starts out as quite a soothing song, which suits the snowy atmosphere, but then it gets more intense, which gives you the feeling that it's up to you to stop Cyrus in order to save the world. He is planning on using Dialga and or Palkia to destroy the world and create his own galaxy for himself. The fate of the world is in your hands. Cyrus is easily one of the most evil villains in the Pokemon universe, up there with Ghetsis. The only downside on this, like in all other dungeons in the series, you'll keep running into wild Pokemon constantly, but that shouldn't be a problem as long as you have enough repels with you. The Valley of Repose. I don't know why the Valley of Repose is this high on the list. I just love it. I guess it's the atmosphere and the music that make it very holiday themed. Maybe it's because of how this is the first level in the game, how you play as Olimar and Louie separately to help them find each other. Also, I think I played the song that plays during this level way too low on my winter themes list. The 3 dungeons area are called the Emergence Cave, the Subterranean Complex, and the Frontier Cavern. The Emergence Cave is the first cave in the level, and the first cave in the whole game. It's very simple and very forgiving compared to some of the later caves in the game. Good for a tutorial level, and is where you'll first encounter the purple Pikmin, which can use their brute strength to dispatch enemies. The subterranean complex isn't all that snow themed except maybe the first part until it gets much more rusty and mechanical. The Frontier Cavern is also a very nice dungeon because it's much more winter themed, especially the treasures found there. Warning, the next entry contains massive spoilers from Chrono Trigger. Death Peak from Chrono Trigger isn't really on here for the gameplay, but because of the storyline. Before this level, the unthinkable happened. Not too long ago in this game, you recently finished the Ocean Palace, but at what cost? Chrono has tried to defeat Lavos, but ended up being no match for him. That's usual, but he actually died trying to fight him. The main character died. How many of you expected this? Especially from a Super Nintendo game. Soon you'll head back to Lean Square to win a Chrono clone to send it back in time so it would die instead of Chrono. Kind of silly for something as serious as Chrono's death, but that doesn't completely ruin the mood. You start Death Peak by climbing up a mountain during a blizzard in hopes of rescuing Chrono, hiding behind trees when the blizzard comes. Yeah, I complained about this type of mechanic back in my Guardian Science run, but after experiencing it here, the design of climbing up a mountain during an avalanche isn't as bad as I remember. You'll face a few spawns of Lavos on the mountain, and attacking the shell will result in an instant counterattack, so attack the head. One Lavos shell will stay behind, which you can climb to get further up the mountain. From here, you'll now be able to travel back in time and replace Chrono with the clone so it gets killed instead. After Chrono is resurrected, we get one of the most heartwarming moments in the entire game. That is why Death Peak is this high on the list. There are only 3 ice levels I like more than this one. Choosing a Mario level for this was anything but an easy choice. There are probably hundreds of Mario games in existence, so there were some great candidates for this list. The mysterious atmosphere of the Crystal Palace from Paper Mario, the festive nature of Snowball Park from Super Mario 3D World, or the insanity of DK Summit from Mario Kart Wii. Then, this track was made. Man, this track rocks. Mount Wario is divided into 3 sections. In section 1, you drop out of a helicopter. Yep, a helicopter. That's epic. The entire track involves you driving down a mountain, which is awesome. After exiting the helicopter, you drive along the top of the mountain with really steep slopes, then you drive down an icy part with a series of turns. It's a pretty short section because it takes only like 30 seconds. The beginning of section 2 starts with you going into an ice cave and going over a river. If you go onto a gliding portion, you might get on some islands with boost pads on them if you're fast enough. At the end of the cave, you go into a factory and you go to the Wario Dam. No, not the kind you're thinking of. You drive along the side of it as water pours down it, and you use the boost pads. Then you'll get into a forest-like area with different pathways. When it intersects, you'll drive over some logs. The final section is like a ski slope because you are going downward between flags. You then go in through a tunnel, and then down a very steep slope. Then the final stretch. You glide through some rings, and you finally come to the bottom of the mountain where the goal is. One interesting thing is that this is the only track so far in Mario Kart history where you don't end in the same place you started in. Mount Wario is absolutely insane. Some may call it a ripoff of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Winter Games, but that doesn't always mean it's bad. If you haven't played Yoshi's Island and you really want to, I suggest getting the Game Boy Advance version because it's almost everything better. It's the same game with some added secret levels, including the Items Are Fun level. I was a bit confused of if I should put this level on here. It's easily my second favorite level in the game, and yet not all of it is ice-based. Then I realized that even though not all of it is ice-based, the majority of it's ice-based, but remember it's only in the Game Boy Advance version. If you want to beat the level as quickly as possible, it should only take you a minute to beat the level as opposed to 6 or 7 minutes, but you'll miss out the reason why it has the word fun in it. You see, if you go into a pipe next to the goal, it will take you to the actual level. You'll enter an icy castle, and you'll need to hit the switch at the right time to jump through the switch blocks, and then go into a room where you hit a wing cloud to generate a door, except where the door takes you to depends on where it lands. If it lands on the soft stone, it'll take you to an icy area, and there's a secret room that involves you melting ice. If the door lands on the switch blocks after you turn the switch on, it'll take you to an area where you use a blue watermelon to use tap-taps as platforms, and you can jump on in order to get to a ski lift where at the end, you use a snowball to take out 2 tap-taps to create a flower. If you let the door fall to the very bottom, you'll find an area where if you go down the pipe, you'll find an area where you use red watermelons to climb the icy structure and thaw out more watermelons to help you climb higher. What also makes this level interesting is how you can go to whatever area you already missed, so you don't have to restart the whole level if you make a wrong move. Just backtrack to where you missed them. Before we end this holiday special, let's make a quick recap. Number 15, Sector 5. Number 14, the Mountains of Mira Mira. Number 13, DK Island. Number 12, the Glacial Peak. Number 11, the Abandoned Factory. Number 10, Eskimo World. Number 9, Snow Peak Ruins. Number 8, Chili Castle. Number 7, Ice Cap. Number 6, Mount Coronet. Number 5, Valley of Repose. Number 4, Death Peak. Number 3, Mount Warrior. And number 2, Items are Fun. Snowland is my favorite ice level in all of gaming, no doubt about it. Why is it number 1? Pretty much everything. Snowy Fields does a great job at setting the mood of this winter wonderland of a world. Here, there are some giant snowballs, you'll go through some igloos. It even has my favorite winter theme in all of gaming. On my favorite winter themes list, I put it as a tie with the Frozen Hillside theme from Kirby's Air Ride. Now I think about it, I like this more because it's perfect for a winter theme. It greatly suits the holiday mood. Cozy Cabin takes place inside a giant cabin. It's very relaxing. It has Christmas trees that have beads decorated like ornaments on them. Mount Slide is like a snowboarding level where there are trees that shoot you up whenever you jump on them, and you will use the flip to gain extra heights at times, and sometimes you'll get some wings that will propel you higher. In the Frosty Wheel level, you will use the sled dash a lot of times here, and see these icy geysers as snowflake Ferris wheels. In the fight with King DDD, you are required to wait until he charges, then ground pound his back, or throw his projectiles back at him. Then pull on the strings to give damage. Now let's talk about the secret levels. Frigid Fjords, as you race through a long level while speeding up by grabbing certain items. And finally, the Evergreen Lift. You ride this platform up a giant Christmas tree, you keep raising the platform to help you get higher until you reach the top. Both you and the star will reach the top of the tree, giving you a feeling of satisfaction. And I believe I should also mention that every song in this world is beautiful. This is in my mind the closest winter level to being perfect, and without a doubt my favorite